Welcome, guys, to the SBN Network podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and with me is...
I'm Scott.
Yes.
And I'm Scott. We know how to do intros now.
This is a podcast where we take some deep dives into some wonderful artists and kind of look at their account in a different way, which is always a little bit positive, a little awesome, and you guys can enjoy their accounts with us.
And now that we've gotten more professional, I try not to say any dumb stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I try to at least always end on a good note.
Sip up.
You always take a sip like right when I hit the button.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect, DJ.
Okay, now we've begun. There it is. There it is.
So I am beyond excited by this. I don't think you fully realize, TJ, and I'm going to say this live and record this, that you're my really favorite member of the 1/6 pack, and I'm not allowed to tell Trevor and Tom that, but you're like my favorite person on that show for when you guys talk, because you're hilarious and I enjoy it for your humor.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm also the quietest member.
I know, which is the best part when you perk up. So it makes it so much better. Plus the fact that we're birthday buddies. So that always makes my day.
That is right.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to welcome you and thank you again for coming on, because I was super excited you said yes.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for thinking of me.
Excited you're on too, because I don't think I followed you before Steph told me about you, and now she got to introduce me, and I got to hyper dive through your feed over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it was wonderful. It was
cool.
Such a good experience. So
thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I've been introduced to somebody new, and I love it.
Isn't it amazing how you just randomly find people on Instagram who everyone else follows, you've just never stumbled across?
I know.
And
crazy.
I'm sure there's way more people that I have yet to interact with or discover.
And there's such a spectrum, because you've got people who are kind of just subtle, and they just sort of make wonderful works of art behind the scenes, but they're not really follower chasers. But then you have people who are a little more popular because they're a little better at the networking part of things. And so you just have this range of people out there. I found people who are just absolutely unreal, talented, who have 300 followers. And I'm just oh, okay. But I think that's the fun of the community, is you do have a lot of different types of people doing a lot of different types of things. So.
Yeah. So you ready for this? This is by far my inner nerd was excited for your first photo versus your newest one, because we kind of pull a spectrum of your account.
You went to the first one?
I kind of went three up. I'm just going to say, because I had to pick this one, but it's one of those things.
That's so funny.
So
August. Sometimes I forget when I started the account and I want to scroll down, but I don't feel just for 10 minutes till I get to August 2016. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you this.
Yes.
Just starting with this. So 2016, was that actually when you started, or did you archive some stuff, or were you doing toy photography before Instagram? How did it happen exactly?
Yes. I was doing it before. It was on my personal account. I bought my first 6-scale figure in 2005. It was the Hot Toys Aliens, Colonial Marines, Corporal Hicks. Back then it was $120, and I thought $120 was insane in 2005. So I was going to school for illustration 2006, 2007. I was always into illustration, and then maybe in 2013 I got into photography. I had a photographer friend whose work just blew my mind. And then eventually I stumbled upon, toy photography, and I was like, oh, this is so awesome. You're combining all of these things that I'm really into. So I started to do a few shots on my personal account. I started with Hot Toys Colonial Marines, some NECA figures. And then I started 2 toy accounts, actually. One was called Capes in Action, and one was called On the Ready Line. I wanted to have a page just for superheroes, and a page just for like Colonial Marines, like two of my favorite like things. And then I was like, I don't want to manage two things. So I just decided to like combine like capes, aka superheroes, and rifles from like the Colonial Marines. My logo was actually designed by Trevor. If you look closely, cool. The eye in the rifles is actually the pulse rifle from the Colonial Marine storyline.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's awesome. I was always wondering where you got your logo, so that makes sense. Because a lot of mine come from Bets Aid Bets, so it's funny how we meet people on here and they get to make us cool things. That's awesome.
Absolutely. It's the capes and rifles. I love that. I love that name. It's so good. It's so just even the visual. It looks great. Like it looks good spelled out. It's well done. I think you grabbed a great handle there.
Thanks, man. If I'm ever hacked, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
No, just quit. At that point, it doesn't even matter. You've lost the name. This is really such a great evolution, though, and we've had a lot of really great evolutions recently, which is really fun. This has been working out a lot better than I think I even expected it to. But this is great. I mean, for Marvel fans, this is such a cool like first and recent. I just adore it. I absolutely adore it. And it also is interesting to see how your editing style evolved quite a bit. Your editing now is so cool. It is so distinct. It is so strong. The detail is fantastic. Everything you do with it is beautiful. Not that the cap is great too. I love that. I love kind of the simplicity of that because I tend to really enjoy minimalism and simplicity in photography. But it's funny seeing like the kind of simple classic cap against a stark white background. You got the light around his body just kind of following him, and then on the other side you've got this very strong, textured, heavy clarity. Iron Man with like reflections and just Tony Stark just bursting off the scene kind of a thing. It's great. It's awesome.
I think that was one of the most frustrating parts about this is when I saw a lot of photographers who were using Photoshop to edit and add effects. I had no idea how they were doing it. Like, this is years of like asking people, years of watching YouTube, years of just, finding any kind of information I can find. Luckily, like I've met a few people that have been nice enough to share stuff. Mm-hmm. Alex Brooks, who is like my favorite Hot Toys blogger, recently retired, BG Toy Art. Like he was probably my biggest inspiration with this. And I remember like seeing his cap series in 2016. Mm-hmm. I was blown away, but I was probably another 2 years away from being able to do any kind of editing that resembled that. So this is years of like trial and error, a lot of error.
Of course,
a lot of
that's
error.
The nature of it. Any art, anytime you're doing creation, I mean, like you learn through your errors. I think that's one of the most important things people forget sometimes. And you've got all those cliches and those proverbs and whatnot about like failure being a great teacher and this and that. But it's like there's truth to it. It's really important. It's really important to mess up. It's really important to try things and have like really bad results because it makes like what you don't want to do next time. And I think that's a really positive way of looking at it. So it's
and
cool.
I think also going through your feed, TJ, and this is one of the things that I really like about your account is your focus on like the profiles and the actual sculpts. I have a really hard time on the scale with my current setup of actually getting that close and getting the details. So when you're looking at if you want to buy a certain figure, if you want to look and see things, I always like looking at your images because like right now we're going to talk about later in this thing because I'm going to buy a Bucky, but I don't know which version to buy. So we're going to talk that later.
Let's dive deep.
Yeah, we're going to do that when I pull up those images. But I always do pull yours up because there's a clarity to the actual figure itself, even with all the cool stuff happening later on. It's nice to see. So yeah, even like with this Captain America, you can still see that you really were trying to focus in on the details for that sculpt and the profile. So
what's funny is when I remember when I posted this, I probably had like I don't know, like 4 followers. 3 of them were like my friends. Somebody actually followed me who was like president or like something of a Chris Evans fan club.
Yeah.
She thought this was actually like a Chris Evans photograph.
That's awesome.
And then eventually I saw that she unfollowed me because she realized it was a toy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that was great.
Happens.
It's a great 3 weeks.
Right. That's an interesting follow though, because you don't really see those very often.
Yeah. I thought I had made it before I knew that Instagram was like full of bots.
Mm-hmm. So we have superheroes and Colonial Marines, but we also have some Star Wars thrown in there too.
I opened that Star Wars door a few years ago. It's been an expensive door.
Oh, Star Wars ruin your life.
It hasn't stopped.
Yeah. That's so cool. That is such a cool toy. That is such a cool figure. Like that is just ridiculous. Like I feel like to put hair all over something is just insane to me. It's, that is wild.
You were just mentioning because of the Jawas and stuff that you were having trouble with like the cloaks and everything. I can only imagine that Chewie's hair is quite the disaster of trying to maintain.
Oh, it's something else. When I got this, I actually ended up selling this a couple years later because I thought I was getting out of Star Wars, only to buy it for a little bit more money last summer. And then I started reading up and like comparing other like pictures, and I realized that there's a lot of futzing that has to go into this. And like my wife supports me for like the most part in these things. She's in the cosmetics industry, so she like gives me these little like brushes to like take care of Chewbacca's hair. And I recorded it and I sent it to some friends, and I did #TrueLove.
Well, it's funny because you say that about the hair. I did when I was living in Tennessee. I really liked the idea of doing like fashion photography and stuff like that. That was something I enjoyed, and it is funny because I bet you a lot of the same kind of tricks with the hair. Like when there'd be wisps and stuff, you could actually use like makeup brushes and stuff to get wisps to actually stick to the face. They had like gels and things like that. It was so cool, and I feel like you can do the same exact stuff with this to get.
I think for this one, I've seen some mods on this that look like mind blowing.
Yeah,
don't know if I have the patience.
No.
Yeah, that's always a trick.
It would be a lot of brushing, and then once you get it all gelled out, you have to ungel it. It just sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah,
ordeal.
This one I just like. I like the edit on it. I think a lot of people do the over edits for Doctor Strange and stuff. And I remember when this figure came out, I was gonna get him and I didn't. And then I saw your images of him and I was like, I should have got him. And then I at least could have posed him like this because this is an awesome look for him. So
I love the way you edit like an illustrator. Like you mentioned that you always did illustration and stuff. You think that way. But at the same time, you're thinking about the photography equally. You're not just taking a photo and then illustrating the crap out of it until it kind of becomes something worth looking at. You're really good at making sure that even if you took all of we'll just say like enhancements, if you took all of that out, this photo would still hold its own. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important. I think that's a really important part of this when you start getting into some of the more the intense editing and stuff like that. Is you still focus on your posing, and you're not just taking a mediocre image and making it super fancy. You know what I mean? Like you're focusing on both elements, and it's just super super cool to see people do that. And I
thank
like
you
this a lot.
Do you have the date on this like readily available?
I don't. Let me look.
Only because this was probably one of my first successful attempts at compositing.
Yeah.
And the spinning head effects were actually a complete accident. I had meant to shoot the figure in like the first pose and then tilt him and then just copy the head. And then it was like, I don't know what I was doing that afternoon. I completely forgot. And then when I started editing, I was like, shit, like I forgot to actually do that. So I took the figure out again. I tried to like replicate like the same angle from the camera. And then this happened. Complete accident.
It worked.
It's March 2019 is what I got for it. So.
Okay. That was around the time that I was experimenting more with compositing.
Mm-hmm. It's a happy accident because it's awesome. It's very striking, even for the angle for it. And one of the things, since I had to take a photo in your style, I was trying to figure out where to find like digital backgrounds. And I was like just Googling, like, I think I Googled like Star Wars background desktop displays. Like, where do you kind of find like your images? Like, do you have a certain search criteria or a place you go to?
No. So years ago when I was actually trying to photograph a Figma Leonidas figure. I was trying to do a digiorama. I just Googled, 300 movie stills, and I found, I think, moviescreencaps.com, and it's screen caps from like a lot of movies. So I tend to go through them. I know a lot of people already do this. I go through them. I look for screen caps with like just background, or I'll look for a screen cap.
Uh-oh, he froze up. Steph, you can still hear me, right?
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Oh, there he goes. Oh, he's back.
Was
There he goes.
Was that me?
There you go.
Yeah, you just appeared.
Wow, you guys froze. And I'm like,
yeah, your screen went blank, and then it like a little wheel, and then
so weird.
I've
never had an internet interruption. Huh?
There you go.
Of course, it had to
The
be
world's
today.
ending. Oh, God.
So screen caps. We're gonna start
Screen
there.
Caps, yes, not craps. Screen caps.
Yeah. Let me look it up.
So I'll tell you what I did, and I'm gonna tell you, Steph and TJ. I put Star Wars on and paused it.
You what?
Put Star Wars on.
Star Wars on and paused it.
You can do that
because I was too impatient. I started digging around, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna go to a scene and pause. That's what I ended up doing. I paused the movie.
It takes so much patience to actually find a background.
It does. That's kind of why I was just like, I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens.
It's more work than I would like to admit, for me anyway.
But I mean, the results are there. Like, you know what I mean? You sit there and say, it's a pain, but look at what you create with it. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Like this scene means so much with this backdrop, and some of some of like your Thanos photos. Like, I mean, if you didn't have those backgrounds, like it just takes it so much higher. It's so cool. So it's worth the effort. I think it's worth the effort.
Thanks.
I think it's also nice to, like, you think of people that use a bunch of props and everything like that. Your backgrounds have actually become part of your photography, TJ. Like, you take the care into it. So I think it's nice to see when the image comes up. It's not something you take lightly. So you're not just throwing something in the back.
We may as well ask the question before we get too deep. Oh God, Frank Castle. Okay, we'll get to Frank Castle. I am a Frank Castle lunatic. What do you use? What's your gear, camera-wise? People ask us, and a lot of the times we have people on here who don't necessarily use real gear. So I just want to take advantage and like kind of chat through like what your setup feels like right now.
Yeah. In terms of like my go-to, I have a Canon 6D. My go-to lens is the 100 millimeter macro, the non-L. I bought it because of toy photography. Actually, I bought it because I wanted a macro lens. I didn't want to spend like over $1,000 on it because I had never used a macro before. So I ended up getting the non-L used for like $300, and I've had it ever since. And I have
a sturdy lens.
10 different like lighting setups.
Yeah.
Soft boxes, lume cubes, the aperture M9, different speed lights, a fixed light. I don't know. I went light crazy.
Use full size soft boxes and whatnot, or do you have like small miniature setups for?
I think this is like a 20 by 30.
Oh yeah. I have a soft box.
Yeah, I got two of those. Well, maybe 6 of those. They're just like tucked away somewhere.
You got me thinking now. It's something I've talked about. I actually talked about it when I was on with the podcast with Steph when I was a guest. I have never once pulled out any of my studio lights from when I used to do portrait photography and use them on toys. Not even once. I've never fired them up for this. And I feel like at some point I need to kind of break that and just play for a little while. Because I think it would be an adventure.
I think you'd end up liking it a lot. You'd like just the nice even lighting.
Mm-hmm.
This has just been years of also experimenting with lights. That's why I have just so many things like, hiding underneath like the bed and the closet that I don't use.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How long does it take you to set it up, like from idea to like taking the shot?
It varies. It could be like an hour to 2 hours, just simple. And then like, I think the Doctor Strange shot was like a good 3 hours from like setup to editing and everything. I think the longest I've done, probably 4 hours on like a really complicated composite. Complicated for me, but probably not for like other people.
Yeah, that's just how it works. I
just figured out what layering was, so it works out just fine.
I have to say this photo is awesome. This is one of the ones I sent you, Steph, that I wanted to put in here. Like, I start digging. Why not? We're here. Let's do it. The fact that like his fingers have just a little bit of glow on his right hand, but the rest of his arm kind of hides in the background, and then you've got that like his skin tones are really apparent in 3 spots, and then the rest of him just kind of blends yet stands out. It's like a happy medium with that black backdrop. And I mean, I'm just a John Bernthal Punisher, like that. He's one of those like please don't ever recast situations. That's how I feel. I know they're probably going to at some point, but it's like he is the Punisher in my opinion. And you just this figure, everything you did with it is just even down to the tilt of his head. That is so him. It's so him. Like it's just baffling. His pose, his stance. It would be so easy to not nail him, but this is like everything about this is exactly how he would be standing there. Like it looks like somebody went and took a photo shoot of him for the show. So I love it. I absolutely love it. I also love that there's a little highlight like on his right arm, like on his forearm here, and then a little bit on like kind of the edge of his bicep, so you can kind of see the shape of his arm across there. That's too freaking great. The reflectiveness of the skull on his vest is really awesome. And then your framing is fantastic. When you're framing, I'm just curious because you do different aspect ratios and whatnot as far as like crops. Do you think about the crop before you photograph, or do you tend to you get the image and then you start figuring out how you want it to fall into either like a 1-to-1 or 4-to-5 or like, you know what I mean?
I have a general idea, but then I always end up just like trimming it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This shot was before. This is all Lightroom. Like there is nothing else. The only Photoshop there was adding the logo at the bottom.
Yeah. That's great. This is a great image. I adore it. So.
Do you Lightroom? So you did it on like your phone or an iPad, or do you do Lightroom on your computer?
I have a Lightroom on my computer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do any editing on a pad or do you always edit on your computer?
Always on a computer, but I bought an iPad Pro last fall. I meant to do more experimental edits on what's that famous drawing?
The Procreate?
Yes. I downloaded all that. I bought the pencil. Like I had all these ideas. I wanted to combine sketching and my photography. It kind of fell flat. I had some distractions in the fall, but I wanted to add more. I wanted to just start to evolve a little bit. It's been on hold.
I hear you on that because it's like after a while, I was telling Scott and them this that I'm like out in the forest, so there's only so much you could do. I'd like to be able to add a little bit more, and a lot with the Mythic Legion figures. Like Trevor is like inspiring about how I could probably do some more at home and not have to go anywhere and do some more indoor stuff. But I'm looking right now to look for a new camera, so I'm excited that you're using a Canon too, and that the back row that doesn't have to have the fancy price tag is actually just as good. So it's kind of nice to hear. So it works. I think, is he next? He is next. So
that arm killed it.
This is my thing though, because this is the Infinity War, right? Or
yes.
Endgame. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And so there's the original version, the Winter Soldier from the Winter Soldier Captain America movie, and now there's the new one from the TV series, but doesn't have the long hair. So I'm kind of stuck, TJ.
You know, I like the new outfit from the show, but I don't like the way the prototype sculpt looks. I don't think it captures it as well as this one does. Or even the Civil War version, I think, had a better sculpt. It could always change.
Yeah. It comes with like, doesn't the Civil War one come with like the black makeup too? So it comes with the mask and everything.
That one it's just simple. It's just a machine gun and like hands and a knife. If I remember. Actually, maybe there's no knife. That was the simplest one.
TJ, I totally agree because I was looking at it this morning and I love his outfit in the show. Like I think it is such a cool setup. But I agree with Steph with the hair, and I agree with you with the sculpt looks a little funky. It doesn't look exact. I think this is him. I mean, plus you captured it perfectly.
I remember this well. Like during the pandemic when I was working from home, I did a lot of shooting, like right at 5:05, 5:10 when my workday would end. I remember this because I really wanted to try using natural light in my composites instead of just waiting till it's dark and using all of my artificial light to create something. I like this one.
I love the glow off of his hand from the firing. Like that, such a cool detail that I feel like just makes this photo, again, it takes it to another level. Like it would have been something that if you hadn't done it, people wouldn't have necessarily noticed. But I think that it is there, just add something. I think that's too damn cool.
I actually thought I overdid it.
No, I like it because you figure he's like blasted. That thing's like a powerful, vicious weapon. I mean, there'd be all kinds of fire coming out of the end of it. So I think it's cool. It's important. It feels, it gives it that comic book, fantasy push, like to the next level. I think it's cool. I love it.
Thank you.
I think it's also because like a lot of people take photos. There's a bunch of Iron Man photos, a bunch of Captain America. I was really excited when you took more of poor Bucky. He needs a little more love, and he'll get some more now that he's out with his new series. But it's really nice when I get to go back through your feed and see the Infinity War one, because they came out with so many different figures during this time for this movie. So Bucky needs some love too. So it was perfect.
Bucky does need some love. Bucky's amazing. Yeah.
But I think what you just talked me into is getting this one and the new one so I can mix and match.
I would like swap head sculpts.
That's perfect.
We just ruined
Even though he didn't have the long hair too much in the show. That's okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You wanted this one, Scott. You can.
I did. This is different than your typical perspective, which I thought was kind of fun. You tend to shoot more traditionally in a very these simple classic poses, straight on with the subject. This felt like a screen grab, which I think kind of stopped me a little bit as I was going through. I love that you created motion without there actually being motion. It's a stagnant figure, but it's like you can feel his hands like moving the hood. You can see his motion. You can feel him walking. That lower angle looking upward. I mean, that's just it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I love those light spots on the top. Like they're just, the tone is great. It would have been easy to blow those out and just not have the same effect, but they're just so well balanced with the light off of his skin that it's very pleasing to look at. And that's something you do that I think you do really well, that people who use a lot of editing techniques and a lot of artificial light and stuff sometimes miss this, is you don't blow the contrast out of control. Like people, it's very easy when you're using lots of different light and lots of different vibes and lots of, layers and composites and stuff, like to just get super, super bright and super, super dark. But you have these real, authentic, evenly balanced lighting situations. And this is, I think, is one of the best examples on your feed of how well balanced your photos tend to be. So there you have it.
Thanks. I was excited for this figure, but like I had almost zero ideas, and then this idea popped into my head, and I can't even remember if this was a composite or a digiorama. Turns out I have like 11 Luke Skywalkers now.
Oh wow!
It's like 10 or 11. Like I had no idea. Because like I think me and the guys were talking about like how many figures of each character do you have, and like I forgot that I have so many of these,
and they're all like really different too, because he's gone through some stages like facial hair wise and everything else going on. So it's not like they're different in the different.
When is
it's all the same figure? So
Luke, the Empire Strikes Back, like Snowspeeder outfit Luke. When is he coming out?
What's that?
You know that? I saw that there was like a I don't know if it was like a toy fair or something, that they're doing like a Luke with the Snowspeeder outfit, like with the heavy collar and stuff. That looked really cool.
That one, so that's going to be number like 11 for me. I think that's coming out first quarter next year.
Okay,
can't wait for that one. That's probably my favorite like Luke outfit.
Yeah,
all time. I wish it came out earlier.
And the thing with that too, like not to be all like super nerdy, but I feel like the opportunity to photograph that is wider. Like you can do kind of like Dagobah scenes, you can do snow scenes, you can do interior scenes like heading out of the the shuttle bays and stuff like that. Like there's options, which I think is really neat. So that's pretty cool.
I'm writing all those ideas down, by the way.
I would say you also need to line them up and take one photo of like.
But no, it's true. There's like all these like he's all over the place in that outfit. There's so many possibilities. So
it works out. Okay.
Yeah.
Something different.
Well, this was fun, and surprisingly it got more attention than I expected. If you've ever heard me and Trevor talk about Indiana Jones customs, this is one of the end results.
I was going to ask, because they don't really have like indie figures. They had like 2, I think, back in the day when they first came out, and then Trevor has a pretty good custom too, I believe.
Yeah,
because he took his photos with it. I think recently for when you had Toy in Hand, he did his like Indiana Jones one, which was amazing. Yes.
That's an amazing custom he has.
I just I saw this on your feed because it shows, like it pops out because it's like there's a bunch of Marvel, a bunch of Star Wars, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, Indiana Jones, I have to put this in here too. So it's interesting.
This is fun.
How did you get this little like setup and stuff? Just out of curiosity, like the stuff in front. What is that?
So the stuff in front actually comes with the Hot Toys Indiana Jones DX figure. It's the fertility idol and like the stand it comes with.
Okay.
And like, I'm like, I like to watch movies. Sometimes like I know I want to shoot a figure, but I have no idea. So like I'll watch the movie again. Then I'll like just Google image the character. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can like take this shot where he's like trying to decide whether he can pull off like removing this idol before, he sets off any traps. So then I mean, this is a cheat because I had to raise the stand over something just to get it like eye level. I had to drop my camera down just to try to capture like the angle I had envisioned. It came out okay. There were a few exposures on this one because I kept having a hard time using a gel loom cube to give him that warmth, because I was trying to capture the warmth or the lighting bouncing off the idol. And the background is a screen grab. And yeah, this was fun. Like I looked up the information on it, and this got me like 8 followers.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know there would be like Indiana Jones fans like that.
There,
yeah.
What's the most exposures you've ever used for a single for one shot?
Probably like 30, 35. Yeah, 30 to 35.
It's the only time I've really done a whole lot of composites is interior photography.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get like, especially if there's like windows in the room or something like that, like you're trying to photograph a kitchen and you need to get the stove, but you also need to get the lights that are set up, but you also need to get like the floor. I haven't really done it with toys at all. But I was just curious. It's always funny, like how many images you can place into one image just to get that balance. It's wild.
This is probably like 25. And like 6 of them were good.
I love it.
I don't know. This looks great to me. So I'm like in my brain trying to even like take an image with a digital background was like a total another thought process. So it's nice to even hear that it took you that as long as it has been to like get to this point. So I'm going to put a 2-year deadline on myself to like kind of like figure out how to even like get the depth of field for a digital screen versus a figure. Cause it's like, it's hard in my brain not to see the actual trees a ways away. So it's interesting. Very, very interesting. I had to throw this one in there too, because this one's completely badass.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. So good. Love that backdrop. What was that backdrop? Is that just
that is I search for I think desert sunsets on Adobe stock images.
Yeah.
Until I just saw something that looked like it had enough like blues and like oranges in it. Like this was inspired by like one of the many like loading screens from the Disney Plus Mandalorian menu. Like there's always like a new one. And I was like, I really want to try something where he's hanging out with the child and there's just some blues, some warms. I want to throw some like, rocks in the foreground, make it look like he's standing, I don't know, some like alien planet.
Yeah. What figure is this?
This is the Figure Arts Best Color Mandalorian.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah.
So good.
We're just gonna stare at it for a little bit too. Yeah.
I love the plate where the sun is. Wonderful. Coming through the armor over there on the sides, like reflecting off, and you got the light bouncing off the rock in the bottom. It's just great. It feels so powerful and such a hero pose. It's he just looks. He's ready to mess some stuff up. I love it. Take over the world. So good. Him and Grogu just taking on everybody.
It's funny now that I have the Hot Toys version. Like this guy is just like sitting on the windowsill, collecting dust.
It ruined you.
Absolutely ruined
you. Figure's amazing.
You gotta have to redo it then. Just make sure you.
I tried to redo it. It's probably like in the last 6 shots of mine.
Mm-hmm.
It came out completely different, of course.
Interesting.
I can't even like repeat my own shots successfully.
That's the nature of it.
And I was wondering, do you always try to go towards like a warmer tone versus the cooler? Like is that the way you like when you see something?
It really like varies. But I did when I was doing my Infinity War and Endgame composites, I actually like messed with some settings in Lightroom. And I created my my own presets just for those series. And they're somewhere, I guess they're a little more on the cooler side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your color plays such an important role. And when we get to, I'll joke around with Steph a little bit. I sent her a message this morning. And I said, I'm going to be bratty. I know it was a black and white challenge, but I want to put the color. I want to talk about the color one in there because I'll probably end up talking about his color choices. Because that's something that's really important, I think, in your work is your color. And we've had other photographers on here who the color, it does matter, but you really go for those like those real cinematic where the color actually affects your feeling and your mood. And that's always, the goal with like color grading and stuff in movies is you want it to match the vibe of a particular scene. And you do that. I think you do that very well in all of these images. And that's what's so cool.
I actually think I struggle with that.
Oh, no. Not in my opinion. And I'm pretty snobby. Used to be pretty snobby. I've mellowed out a bit, but like, I think it's cool because like if you had gone cool with this photo, it wouldn't have made sense. It wouldn't have felt right. There would have been a darkness behind it that shouldn't have been there. And I think that's, you go with these lightings and these colors that are just fit the mood, fit the character. You go back to that photo of the Punisher before, and there's that darkness. Like, yeah, it's a color photo, but it's monochromatic. Even like it's simple, and you've got this. His eyes had disappeared, and you had this like kind of low key, kind of heading more towards the blue direction feel. But if you had this color with that photo, it would have been super confusing. It wouldn't have made any sense. And that's really great. It's great. You just amazing. I also want to point out how there's a little bit of light on Grogu, as if like he's receding like behind Mando just enough to have some light kind of popping off his shoulder. I think that just absolutely brilliant. Like,
that is the one thing I will say I did on purpose.
Oh, it's noticeable, and I think that is really, really important. It's because it's a little thing that a lot of people would just look past. If you hadn't done it, it wouldn't have mattered. But I think seeing that little highlight over there, it really brings some realness to what's going on. So just I had to shout that out.
Thank you.
Not to. Too good not to shout out.
And I just noticed the rocks and stuff. Do you have a bunch of like dio bits probably in a box somewhere for you, TJ?
I do. Years ago when like I was still trying to learn Photoshop, and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever like know how to composite anything. I started like trying to find just diorama pieces that I could combine and try to pull off a set. Even though that was tough. Mm-hmm. So I have a bunch of these that I actually bought for a Luke Skywalker figure that just never worked out. I could never frame it properly. So now it's always a good little foreground piece.
I'd say it's nice because like Wicket, the Ewok, came with like a little green piece that like goes in the corner of the stand. And I was like, I wish more figures came with just random rocks and plants because like you use them everywhere.
Come in so handy.
Mm-hmm.
So handy. I think I used that for my Wicket shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the things you said, Steph, about Nendos that you really like is they always come with like a bunch of extra stuff that you can use for other figures and whatnot. I think that is cool. I love when figures come with extra crap.
I like it better that TJ's black and white has nothing to do with Marvel and Star Wars. It was this, even though these turtles are amazing. I've been trying to talk Scott into buying these, so it was my favorite thing.
So good. It's so
the NECA ones, like the black and white NECA ones, or the colored ones?
Either one, because he was looking at.
They all come in a set, right? They all come together.
The black and white ones came in a set. I missed out on those when they first came out because I thought I was like too cool to buy expensive figures. And then I ended up finding them for like $100 on eBay a couple years ago. I bought them. But the colored ones that I own are like the knockoffs. I don't know if you've like heard much about that. I only heard about it because I started seeing them on eBay for like $40 for a set of 4. So I was like, what's wrong with this? So it turns out like somebody stole the cast and like they've just been like producing knockoffs in China for like years now. Because for you to buy like the real NECA ones, it's like at least $120
a turtle
per figure.
Interesting. Knockoff toys are such a fascinating thing to me. They're so interesting. Like I really knew nothing about it because I don't tend to collect anything that would even have that market. But like, as I've looked deeper and seen like the Mezco knockoffs and the SH Figure Arts and like stuff like that out there, that there are these weird, companies making crappy versions of these figures. It's so interesting to me.
Have you seen the Hot Toys knockoffs?
No, I haven't.
There's a Civil War Spider-Man knockoff that is like it's so loose. The outfit is so loose on him.
Oh god.
Like,
Oh my god.
it's so bad. It's so bad.
You think if they were at least going to make something, they would try a little bit, but like even like the Nendroid ones, like some of their eyes are like off kilter, like crooked, like it's just like, come on, please, just like
let's
no.
try a little.
The turtles though, these figures, I used to have them. I sold them a while back too, but it's just like they're really, really well done, and I like that your black and white is with the black and white figure because like it's interesting to me when people have black and white figures because I like to own them. Like the black and white Batman line, I have a bunch of them because it's the same kind of thing. If I take a black and white photo, sometimes it's easier to have the figure already that way so you can have the light land right. But
There's
I know when I asked you,
Batman line?
yeah, there's like a black and white. There's just like a bunch of.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I think Tom has a few of them, and they're like the statues that came with the Arkham games and stuff like that. They're just like a different variations of Batman from different comic artists.
Okay.
And so they have like Scarecrow. They also have villains and stuff too, but they're really awesome for the price.
Oh.
So yeah. You're gonna Google it after this. I can see in your brain.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
just like, all right.
That sounds cool.
How do I get these in my life?
Yeah, those are really neat. So we're going to go to Scott's because he wants to talk about color versus I try to get both of these in the same shot for this.
That worked. I had to do I really quickly did when I sent you the message last night, TJ. I was like, all right, I have to do that little background thing. The biggest reason was because we had Amy on and I did her presentation style, and I wanted my next series to be the same kind of thing. I wanted to do it like in the presentation style. Next time I probably won't, but like I wanted 2 in a row that had. I'm very particular about the way my feed like scrolls. I don't know. I'm weird like that. So I just had to do the little like blurry pixelated background. But yeah, I couldn't not post the color shot too, because like I said, with your photography, I think color plays a huge role in the mood and the feeling you're trying to give your viewer. And I kept looking at it in black and white, and I was like, it's fine, like whatever. But like the color was sort of the uncomfortable darkness of this scene was what I sort of wanted to go for. And I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna shoot a bigger figure than I've ever shot before, and I'm gonna shoot with a TV in the background, and I'm gonna do all this crazy stuff, then I'm just gonna keep at least a color image up there too. But it was fun. It really playing with a 6 scale figure was got me excited to try it again and take some outside. So you got me inspired, so I appreciate that.
I actually really love the color version of this shot. And if you didn't tell me that it was, just like, the Star Wars movie on pause, I would have assumed it was probably like a poster or like monitor.
Yeah. Just a Return of the Jedi scene that I found that kind of looked like the inside of something. So.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly like what I end up doing is it's all just random backgrounds that look like they could be helping me tell the story or just hit the pose.
Yeah.
These are the Hot Toys Jawas?
They're sideshow ones.
Sideshow. Okay.
Sideshow.
Okay. They light up, or is that just?
Yeah, they light up.
Oh, that's really
they
cool.
Have little switches on the backs of their heads, which I was like, "Whoa, they light up! Holy crap! Super cool, super cool."
Which is funny because these are mine that I sent Scott, and like I didn't know they lit up until he showed me.
I sent her a picture. She was like, "Oh, they light up." I was like, "Yeah, they light up. Look at the little glowing eyes. So cute."
So it was amusing, but I'm glad they went to a good home because he was like, I don't know if I want to make the leap to Hot Toys. I'm like, well, let me push you. So here you go.
She broke me. She ruined me forever.
Yeah,
the door's open, huh?
Yeah, she also opened the world of Nendos to me, which I wasn't expecting either. Broke me with that one.
And then mine, I just had to do a cool pose and I'd use them. I tried really hard to get this to work together, but black and white does not work well.
Love it. No, that's the thing. And that's why I said the thing about the color. It's hard to think in TJ's brain in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I truly, out of honestly, out of everybody we've had on here, you are the least black and white photographer I can imagine. Your color is just too damn important. But yeah, I do love the simple pose, the hero stance, looking off. Like that is it's
I just need to
definitely
get a
fun.
better lens to get up closer because my 50 does not do well with 6-scale sculpts. I'll tell you that right now.
Time for your macro.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 50. What's your camera now? Is it a Canon?
Yeah, it's a T3i.
Okay, they have a 50 millimeter macro.
Do they?
Yeah. I got one recently because I was just trying to put more into the frame. I think it wasn't terribly expensive, but it's now my second go-to. How do you like this figure?
I love this figure. I mean, I love anything that's Han Solo, so I need to get the original too with Chewie. I was hoping they would make a Chewie from this movie and a Lando, and then that would be the round out, but no.
Why didn't they do a Lando? They should. That'd be rad.
He would look sweet. But with Hot Toys, I have to like make space for everything. And I have random ones. I have both Stan Lee's from Ragnarok and then from the Guardians, which is random to put next to Solo and Wicket. So it kind of works. But yeah, that's what happens when you collect too many lines of figures, I guess. But I had to save Thanos for last so that he was in there. He just like came up in the end for everything going on to round out our.
So with the Thanos, like, I want to understand this. And I told Steph I was going to make you two talk a little bit about this. And the time has come. I'm going to make you two talk about this.
Okay.
How, what is the construction of this figure? Like, you don't see joints and stuff like that. What is it, like old Barbie dolls? Like where that's kind of like that material that can kind of flex a little bit? Or,
it's, I don't know.
I know that's a super weird, specific question. I'm just trying to understand
how
Hot Toys
it's the same plastic.
Okay.
The arm, it's got a skin on it though.
That's what I mean. So it's got skin on it, so that you can't see. All right. And how does that skin hold up over time?
I've had this since early 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's fine. Like the only issue I've ever had with it is. So like we're in our second bedroom, which is essentially like my closet and like all my crap, right? And there's a day bed here, and like because I don't have space for Thanos on the detolf or anywhere else, he kind of just lays on the bed along with like some other crap. The only issue I've ever had is one day, not in the sun, he had like this weird orange blot on top of his head. I ended up buying a new head because it was driving me nuts.
Huh.
Yeah, which I can't even explain. Other than that, like it's held up very well.
Interesting.
So I know that they say like when you leave them in poses too long, they can get creases and stuff. Which my oh my gosh, I'm blanking. My Spider-Man that's in Iron Man, like with the suit and everything.
Oh,
the
Iron Spider.
Yeah. I don't bend him for very long unless I'm going to go take photos of him. So it's just one of those.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I bought the Amazing Spider-Man 2 figure when it came out, and like I wasn't really shooting yet, so I left him in like a dynamic pose on top of like my bar table for like 6 months. When I finally like took him off, like the leg came off. So lesson learned.
Yeah.
I was the skin thing is interesting to me because I've been looking at the new Ahsoka that's coming out, and I'm just fascinated by again how that would work and like the posing and stuff like that. It's so interesting. These are so interesting. I really, really, really got to play with these. People ruining me.
DJ would be more to ask questions about Hot Toys because I don't really. My environment and weather is actually perfect. They don't actually like get any salt air or anything crazy. And there's no real heat up here. So it's like they can stay in a DTOF and not weather. Where I've heard in other places, if it gets too moist or damp, you can get kind of different things happening to all their stuff.
Do you take them outside at all, TJ, or does every single one get photographed inside?
It's all indoors.
Okay. Gotcha.
One of the reasons, like, so we might be closing on a house in Connecticut next month. Like it's on, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen, but like one of like the exciting things about when like we found the house, I was like, hey, there's a backyard. I can take stuff out and it's fenced. No one has to see me doing this. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Still
that's
trying to
the
do
weird
that.
thing about it. Yeah, it's I've gotten used to just people staring at me and I've just accepted it at this point. But yeah, that would be great to be able to take them out and actually have like your yard space that's yours and you can set them up however you want, make scenery. It's God, it makes such a difference.
Buy a bunch of really cool potted plants and bio stuff. It'd be
Get
sweet.
some plant life in there. That's too great.
So perfect.
The what's on? I gotta ask, what's on your list right now? Like, what's coming out that you're like super amped about?
It's funny. Like the last 2 months, I've just been so distracted with stuff, and also I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Valhalla that I just haven't been shooting much. But I think if I got the battle damaged Mark 85 and a couple of the 501st Clone Troopers, I'd forget about Valhalla for a few weeks.
Take you away. Yeah.
It would take me away. Yeah.
Absolutely. I get that. Totally get that.
Perfect.
Yeah. They're good.
All right.
So I have a question for you guys.
Oh God.
So not terribly big Hot Toys collectors. Like, what would be like the one hot toy that you'd both be like, I really need that like now? And don't say Bucky. Steph,
you want to go first? I know mine.
I actually have one because it stopped me from collecting a bunch of Hot Toys, and that's because they stopped the Rogue One line at like where it stopped at with just the 4. And if they came up with the main guy that's not Jin, then they actually rounded out the team. I think I would start collecting more Star Wars ones. So
Cassian?
to me,
Cassian Andor?
yes. Yeah. And even the pilot that's from there too. Like, I really believe that if you start something, you should have more team members in there. But yeah, like for Hot Toys versions, they come out with so many different characters. I just don't understand why. And Poe from Force Awakens, I don't understand why they don't have him. Like, some of my favorite characters, I'm like, they're not represented. So it's kind of weird.
No sense.
Well, I will tell you straight up. Right now, Steph already knows what I'm going to say. That Boba Fett from Mandalorian. It is.
Which one though?
The deluxe with the 2 of them.
So you want the damaged armor?
I want the damaged armor, and I want that comes with also just the actual face sculpt with the big black cloak and stuff. I like that. I just can't stop looking at that. It's so funny because I will be honest on the show. I've been honest before. I'm not a Boba Fett person. I never was. I never really cared. He was fine. He never was, and a big Star Wars nerd. I've always been a Star Wars nerd, but he never did much for me. I was like, okay, yeah, he's a cool figure. He's a cool character. I had like a 3 3/4. I had a few like 3 3/4 Boba Fett's, but like I never even had like a Black Series one. He wasn't big on to me. And when I saw that episode of The Mandalorian and he stands up and he's wearing that battle damaged armor with the robe underneath and he just shreds, like I remember looking at my wife and kind of going like, okay, if this comes out in some sort of like Hot Toys form, I might have to get this. And then lo and behold, like a couple months later, it gets released and I sent Steph a text and I'm just like, crap, I think I need to get this. But that figure is, that look, I wish that they hadn't cleaned up his armor. I loved that, like, just beaten to crap. Like, he's experienced, that armor has experienced so much. It has seen so much and has been around for such a long time that it looks like it's been through a million wars. And when they cleaned it up the episode later, I was like, no, keep it nasty. Keep it nasty for a little bit. Give me at least a little bit of nasty armor. But I just think that figure, when I saw it, looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely stunning. So
yeah, I also think that the boys need figures. So that's just going to be my thing.
Have you seen the third-party ones?
Yeah, and they're amazing. But it's like, for me, someone who's like trying to find a figure, like who wants to buy it on a sideshow website and like do all that stuff, the third party sometimes is intimidating. So it'd be nice if Sideshow would figure out, or even Hot Toys, I guess, not Sideshow. Sideshow just hosts it, but figures out what people like and then makes them a little bit more price adverse because I was watching Tom's video about the Falcon being an extra $100 from the other one. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But what about you, TJ? What's the figure that you can think of?
Like they've made everything that I kind of want. One of
Mhm.
the things that I never thought they'd make, but they made, and I bought 4 of, the Elven Warrior from the first battle scene, well, the flashback battle scene of Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
I was so excited they made that one. Like, I don't know if there's any other random figures I can ever expect now. I feel like
I
they
would
got
love
me.
it if Hot
They
Toys
got
did
you.
a
Yeah.
Walking Dead line. I'd be into that. Have they ever talked about that?
There is a Walking Dead line.
I think
Hot Toys does? They do?
No, it's
no,
made by
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
3-0. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sculptor.
what I was gonna say. I was like, if Hot Toys, I feel like so like I'm a big Walking Dead fan. Like I love The Walking Dead. I read the comic book multiple times. I kind of actually read it pretty much on a yearly basis now. And the show I liked the show, but I kind of fizzled off towards a couple seasons ago. But a good like Hot Toys like Rick Grimes, good Michonne, I could
Yeah.
really get behind that. Like that would be super fun. Like because that was so McFarlane does like the kind of figure-y ones, but they're basically just statues. Like they don't pose or anything like that. You can't do much with them. But a really good, like really nice sculpted, good articulation. I'd have fun with that. That'd be pretty wild. I don't know
Yeah.
how much interest they'd get though. I don't know. I don't know how much money like Walking Dead fans spend.
I think if 3-0 has it too, the license is kind of like taken for a little while. They have to
Mm.
like wait a little bit, which is why they just did Fantastic Beasts and not all Harry Potter too, because they had to like separate the two, I would assume. Which
Ah.
my Newt is awesome, by the way, TJ. You do need to get him.
Like, it's still like every now and then, like I'll just kind of scroll through what's available now and see how many points I have. I
Mhm.
keep going to that Newt. I don't know if I know what to do with it. It just looks like it needs to be on a shelf on display for me.
Mhm. And he comes with so many cool bits too.
I know.
Suitcase, like
I
all
love
that
that
kind of cool
character.
stuff.
I love that character. Possibly one of my favorite Harry Potter characters. So
Reminds me, I need to finish that second movie. I keep
Mhm.
starting it and I just get distracted or I fall asleep. It's got to happen.
Mhm.
you'll get through it.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we made it through a whole hour, even with some technical difficulties, so we're
Absolutely.
perfect. Yeah.
And
So
Cool.
TJ,
thank
at
you.
the end, we have to always just ask real quick, like,
Yeah.
we know you have multiple things you're working on, and you know, do you have any like shout out things that you're doing right now? Your own channel, YouTube. I know you do a few different things. Where can people find your stuff?
Just on Instagram. I have a Facebook page that I share my images onto. It's kind of just a default. I click off the box, share to this page.
Mhm.
Other than that, I'm just sticking to Instagram. As I mentioned, like I'm trying to evolve my style by adding a little bit more illustration into it. And I'm actually looking for the next thing to do. I just haven't found it. Open to
find it.
ideas.
It'll get there. It'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll have your moment.
Mhm. Well, thank you, and I'm gonna pause right here so I can end.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of the combined SBN F Stop Rebel podcast. Truly a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember, please do not grow up. It's a waste of time. I am Scott, F Stop Rebel. And there's obviously Steph.
Yep, I'm still here, and you can find me at Slag My Thrilla or the SBN. You'll see all the credits on the end, but I always want to say, just guys, stay awesome and keep it up.